Good afternoon, everybody. The South is a holy land. Atlanta is Mecca. And for most of my life, Atlanta has been the epicenter of the Black universe. As a child of the 90s, I watched as we built momentum towards this moment on the world stage. We saw as the same energy that cultivated leaders for justice was infusing boldness in other industries. Whether it be the Southern Freedom Movement or the Source Awards, Atlanta's impact is and has been undeniable. Atlanta is surreal. We get compared to places that only exist in comic books, or our story even resembles one. Burned to the ground, counted out, the city slowly rebuilt itself over the time or from the ashes. But the city is complex. Sometimes it feels as though it's at war with itself and full of contradictions. A hub for global transportation that can't navigate the Grady curve. A city built on a grid of train tracks and trolley lines that has an aversion to public transportation. You see, Atlanta dwells on the bookends. It's a city of tremendous prosperity where it's nearly impossible to escape poverty, where housing insecurity threatens generations, where only a few miles can separate your life expectancy for several decades. Sometimes it feels like we're chasing something more, and we're told to embrace change, moving towards an uncertain destination, but is change always progress? Culture and history answer that question for us. Atlanta has embraced this standard as a standard bearer for Black culture, but what does that mean? It means that we have a responsibility. Culture is more than trends. It's a tool for remembrance, a reflection of our shared beliefs, our values, and our ways of being. It holds our history, protects our traditions, and teaches us how to live. At its foundation is history, a living record of the human journey. More than dates and facts, it's an evolving narrative, a lens through which to understand the world around us and a mirror through which to see ourselves. Culture is how we teach. History is how we remember. Without them, the past lacks context and the future lacks clarity. They are the bridge between the world that was and the one that will be. Those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it, or so we've been told. But what if we know it and we repeat it anyway? Every step into the future, too often, it feels like we're just repeating the past. Each wave of innovation making us more obsolete. We're living in a moment similar to, but unlike any other in history, where our government is being run by corporations and white supremacists. We're living through a Cold War powered on AI data centers and rampant misinformation. Culture is clashing over who gets to both define history and shape the future. So doesn't it make sense that Atlanta is the ground zero? A place committed to upholding Blackness, witnessing active erasure. History isn't just what we study, it's what we stand on. A blueprint and a warning system for what's to come, a compass for what's possible. So let's take a look back before we look ahead. America is the story of stolen land and stolen labor, but it didn't have to be this way. Before America, before conquest, in the earliest chapters of human history, people lived in close-knit communities. We traveled in groups. We valued skills over status. Your contribution and not your class defined your role. Power was shared. And those who tried to rise above the group were humbled by what anthropologists call reverse dominance, which was a community-enforced social accountability mechanism. Across the diaspora and First Nations communities, we see consistent beliefs. The earth was sacred, sharing was essential, and community was divinity. From the potluck ceremonies of the Pacific Northwest to the African philosophy of Ubuntu, I am because we are, community care was foundational and administered through redistributive practices as the bedrock to communal connection. Wealth was not defined by what we earned or what we could keep, but by what we gave. And it worked. These early societies weren't perfect, but they were sustainable. But the European agricultural revolution changed that. It brought with it a seismic shift from shared land to private ownership, from egalitarian independence to institutional control. And that shift fueled violent conquest. The Crusades were early expressions of imperialism, the Norman conquest introducing feudalism, the Reconquista driven by religious fervor freed resources that funded Christopher Columbus' voyage to the Americas. On the other side of that journey, he didn't just bring smallpox and steel, but he brought a worldview, one rooted in domination and forced labor, that treated humans and the land as commodities. Conquest was a divine purpose to them, and that legacy still shapes us. Manifest destiny, enslavement, westward expansion, the Trail of Tears, Afro-Indigenous genocide. The gospel of civilization and democracy was spread through guns, chains, and Bibles. And that vision of America, only conformity could save you. Assimilation itself was survival. And so the connection between whiteness and America was synergetic. Even white European immigrants who came to America were forced to prove their worthiness to be American. Over time, they bought in. They got a pass. Black people didn't. That plays on our fear of rejection, our desire for acceptance, how we're forced to prove ourselves through lens and values and not on our merit. In order to be recognized, we have to become more like them. This is how insidious erasure is. We see it overtly through enslavement. There was a period where they stripped us of our names, our identities, our families, our traditions in exchange for the ones that they gave us. Today, it's seen in the ways that we celebrate and adopt values of imperialism and colonization. The American dream itself came with an opportunity cost. And that tension is tangible in America, and in Atlanta in particular. I was recently in a room with a prominent CEO, and he talked about how we needed to embrace AI and technology. He said that it's here to stay, but what struck me wasn't his optimism, it was how he shrugged off the danger, saying that there will be some bad actors. And I thought to myself, hasn't every innovation eventually been used to disenfranchise? If necessity is the mother of invention, then human error is the origin of necessity. The more we innovate, the more problems we create. Every time, it's the most vulnerable who get left behind. We were promised more, but instead we're working harder for less. Our social fabric and infrastructure is framed. People are lonelier, sicker, and more certain than ever before. Innovation used to be curing disease, feeding the hungry, ending poverty. Now, we're chasing unicorns, lab-grown salmon, AI influencers, butter made from hydrogen, Instagram maps that nobody asked for. We're advancing rapidly, but toward what and for who? America's 4 eras of innovation may offer us some clues. The first industrial revolution birthed modern machines, but destroyed entire ecosystems in the name of progress. The economy grew, but on the backs of stolen indigenous land and enslaved labor. During the second, we saw electricity and mass production ushering in the Gilded Age, resulting in monopolies, worker exploitation, and political corruption. The era was so corrupt that we needed antitrust law just to keep the country functional. Post-World War II, we got nuclear energy and automation, and then the information age, but led to offshoring jobs and the digital divide. And then, of course, today, we're navigating an era of blurred reality through artificial intelligence. Our data is mined, our conversations are monitored, and algorithms influence what we believe. During the first industrial revolution, the average factory worker risked dismemberment for $11 a week. In the Gilded Age, there was estimates that 11 million of the nation's 12 million families earned less than $1,200 per year. Today, we see that the top 1% hold 30%, almost a third of all the wealth in America as themselves. We've gone from a nation of pensions to stock options and market speculation to corporations buying entire neighborhoods. Our innovation hasn't reduced inequality, it's entrenched it. And part of that is because of the indoctrination and the limitations that we impose on ourselves in the mind. In her book, Imagination and Manifesto, Dr. Ruha Benjamin confronts American culture and its suppression of possibility. We live in a world where space travel is normalized, but free healthcare is a pipe dream. Unironically, it was PBS that taught me how to first activate my imagination. As I was writing this, I saw the announcement that the Trump administration is exploring putting a nuclear reactor on the moon. History is a feedback loop. So what does this mean for Atlanta? Why does this matter? It's because places hold power. A reflection of the principle of sowing and reaping, the love and labor poured into what we build inevitably manifest. And the price always pays us back. Collier Heights is that price. It's the love letter to Black ingenuity. And what other areas bore the fruit of redlining and the pressure that was placed on them by racially restrictive covenants, Collier Heights stood as a crown jewel, a suburb built by and for Black families. At a time when racism sought to control our bodies and restrict our choice, we didn't simply occupy space, we built it for ourselves. The community is a testament to the vision, talent, and determination of Black builders before us. Its 177 acres as a monument to our resilience, our blood, sweat, and tears, irrigating the soil. Our prayers became the mortar between each brick. As company towns and mega developments continue to rise, Collier Heights represents the opposite, grassroots power. A neighborhood built by everyday visionaries who believed in thriving in the face of structural barriers. But like so many places and so many Black areas and communities and neighborhoods, Collier Heights now faces the threat of gentrification, a threat born from America's extractive core, from colonization to real estate speculation. Erasure as economic development strategy. Remove, redevelop, rebrand. A new name, a new identity. The past gets paved over, and then Bankhead becomes the Upper West Side. Collier Heights' relative affordability makes it attractive to investors, but the pressure doesn't just come from cold calls and door knockers, it comes from rising taxes and stagnant wages. Since 2020, the city of Atlanta saw a net 42% increase in the residents' median income. Collier Heights, comparatively, just 2%. And that's not a data point, it's an invitation. When America's cultural values prioritize profit over people and personal gain over collective care, we become the very systems that we try to dismantle. If we don't interrogate our values, if we don't put community over capital, then we're not honoring our history, we're repeating it. And where do we go from here, chaos or community? Dr. King invites us to undergo a values revolution, moral purification, to reject the pressure to become a society based or obsessed with wealth and military power towards one focused on human needs and equality. But in his birthplace, we also appear to be moving in the opposite direction, centering capitalism, violence, and opulence over community. These systems are reinforced through our culture, right? What we celebrate, what we consume, what we create, because culture is both a mirror and a guide. It reflects who we are and teaches us how to be. And these ideals don't just live in policy, they live in us. Our ambition alone will not promote equity, it won't sustain change, and without history, we can and will rebuild systems of oppression while making and mistaking it for progress. When writing this, I was reminded of a conversation I had with a young man whose Black future looked like just a Black empire, much like the ones that we are actively trying to dismantle, but powered by that same form of rejection. And it reminded me that our most radical act of all is remembrance, and that it helps expand what we believe is possible. Honoring tradition, mutual care, communal decision-making that helps us build and expand on our opportunities for the future. It's not nostalgia, it's strategy. It's designing a future with roots. When creating a world that's never existed, we must bring our most creative selves into this work, grounded by history and using it as a guide. That is the work, dreaming beyond the world that we've inherited. That is innovation. So how do we begin? 1, by investigating our values. 2, by using history to re-examine the past. 3, by recapturing our right to imagination, because our ancestors already told us that liberation begins in the mind. 4, by translating our values into action, using prefigurative politics and modeling our liberation today, turning our values into actual tangible benefit and piloting something new, trying something different, and then sharing what we learn, because culture spreads through story and wisdom multiplies through sharing. In conclusion, In her work Parable of the Sower, Octavia Butler's protagonist, Lauren, marches forward, not powered by technology, but on foot, with a pocket full of seeds. And what they found when they reached their destination wasn't utopia, it was ashes, much like Atlanta. Return is what helped them to begin again. The essence of remembrance was in those seeds, honoring the past while planting for the future. And this is powerful imagery for us, our hands in the soil, building for tomorrow. Because sometimes that's what the future requires of us. Not polish and not perfection, but persistence. All it takes is a pocket full of seeds and the ancestral wisdom to guide us to exactly where to plant them. Let's build better. Let's build for justice. Thank you all.